All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special guest. I am here with Shawn Long, also known as RGT 85. How are you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, thanks for taking time to talk today. So, Sean, or as you might more so know him as RGT 85, he's a content creator on YouTube, really focusing on video game news and also other things that he's passionate about, which is cool. So, like pro wrestling, got to give some love to the Knicks, and just anything kind of gaming is really what his passion seems to be with that channel. Sean is also an author, which is really cool. As an author myself, I really appreciate that. But he wrote the complete Saga 32X guidebook, which was really cool to see. So, yeah, that's just a little bit about Sean. But do you mind kind of giving a little bit of your background, what you're up to these days, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I got into I've been playing video games since I was 4 or something, like 3 or 4, something like that. Very young age, so over 30 years ago. And it's just something I always enjoyed. There was like a little lull in my life, kind of in my later high school years where I got into more like hood rat stuff instead of video games, but it's weird. We had this big snowstorm, and I was living in North Carolina at the time. And like a big snowstorm isn't a big snowstorm. It's just that there's no plows or anything like that. So if it snows, you're pretty much screwed and stuck. And I was
Okay.
stuck in the house and I had nothing to do. I was like, you know what? Let me find my PlayStation 2 because I got into PS2 for really cheap. And I remember I got a copy of Metal Gear Solid 2 and I never played it. And I sat there and I played through that game. And just like the story of the game was just so unlike a lot of, like, I played the original Metal Gear when I was like 13 and I enjoyed it, but something with the story just really clicked with me. And like that sort of got me back into video games. And yeah, I remember a GameStop opened up in my town that I lived in,
Mhm.
and I started working there. And it was fun, but it was terrible to like work for as a company. Just the things that they do are so like predatory and ridiculous. But yeah, I just always enjoyed video games. I had a friend who was writing for a website, and he was like, yeah, I'm getting all these free video games. And I was like, well, I want to get free video games. He was like, well, can you write? And I was like, I mean, it was probably one of the better things that I did in high school, as far as, they say like a lot of people are either good at like English and history or math and science. And I definitely was the English and history person. I'm
Okay.
terrible at math and science. So I was like, I mean, I'll try it out. And so they gave me a trial run. It worked out good. I went with them for a while and then I joined a website. That website kind of faded away. The owner of that website actually went on to become like a big Twitch streamer. His name is DJ Knight, and
Okay.
like he was at like the Game Awards. He had like a little segment there and stuff. So that was cool to see last year. And so I was kind of like, well, do I want to continue doing this? Or because I mean, obviously I was working a full-time job at the same time. And I was like,
Hmm.
do I want to continue doing this or am I satisfied? And I was like, nah, I want to do a little more. So I sent an email out to a bunch of Nintendo websites because that's primarily what I did on that website. Because at that time I had a Wii U and a 3DS, and like nobody really had both of them. So they kind of just threw me into that. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And I sent a website email to a bunch of different websites. I ended up hearing back from Nintendo Enthusiasts, which actually just closed down like a week ago. And so they brought me on board. I didn't really like the way they were doing things. I remember there was this guy who was like the overseer, and we kind of didn't see eye to eye. So I was kind of like, well, I got to get rid of you then. So I just kind of rose my way up to the top. He ended up leaving, so that worked out good. But they had a YouTube channel, and they had like a couple thousand subscribers, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna make YouTube videos now. And the owner of everything was like, do you know how to make videos? I was like, no. And he was like, oh. I was like, yeah. I was like, well, I'll figure it out, don't worry about it. So I bought like a 480p webcam. I downloaded Windows Movie Maker, and I bought a lamp, and I just put the lamp in the corner of the room. I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
But it ended up working decently. Another guy joined in on the video production side of things at the same time that I started doing things. And he actually had like a rig and like, like a $2,000 camera, mics, lighting. He had a store that he was filming at. So initially I hated him, of course, but we ended up becoming pretty good friends throughout that. So we built that up. And then I kind of wanted to do like other things.
Hmm.
And he was like, well, just make your own channel, because everyone that helped with video content on that website also had their own personal channel. So I started doing that, and I made RGT 85, and then I guess the rest is history. Like it just started going really good, and I was trying to split my time between the website, my channel, and then still working a full-time day job. And I was like,
Hmm.
this is too much. Something has to give. So I ended up leaving the website just to focus on my channel and the day job. And then the channel started doing like really good. And I was making, more money than I was at the day job. And I was like, well, I got to make a decision. So I made a decision. I, saved up a bunch of money, and I was like, well, if I fall flat on my face, I got, 6-7 months of money to live off of. Like, I'll be fine. I can always just go back to my day job. But thankfully it didn't. And, ever since then, it's been almost 4 years now. Is it 4 years? Yeah, I think it is 4 years since I've been doing YouTube stuff full time.
Yeah, and it's weird that you say that because like as you were talking about quitting your regular day job to pursue YouTube, I remember you talking about that in videos, and I was like, how long ago was that? Because in my mind, it feels like it was maybe like a year, 2 years ago or something. But then here, 4 years, it's like time
I'm pretty
flies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 4 years because I was around 80,000 subscribers, and everyone told me you can't do YouTube full time at
Mhm.
80,000 subscribers. But it's like the people who are telling me that were the people who don't understand YouTube. Because if you
Yeah.
have one subscriber, but you're getting views, that's all that matters. Views are
Hmm.
what makes money. Subscribers are just, something to pin your hat on or stroke your ego or something. Like, I am more
Right.
than grateful for the amount of subscribers I have, but there are tons of channels that are way larger than me that don't get the views that I get monthly, and so it's like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, it's cool to have a lot of subscribers, but it's better to get a lot of views. It's better to,
Yeah.
make revenue off of that, in my opinion.
Definitely. And I think it's funny because in your videos, I know something you kind of like joke about is just you always say like you're super cheap and you care about money and stuff like that, which I mean, I think is important. But I think it's like I know that you would have had to make a really calculated decision to quit your full-time job with just like how you seem to talk about just like, oh, here's like the cheap video games and like this like month's sale or whatever, just like how you kind of talk about that. So like you said you had like 7 months kind of saved up in case it all fell flat.
Honestly, probably a little bit more. I
Okay.
moved actually because I was living in
Mm,
Delaware. I mean, I was living in North Carolina, and I was like, I want to go back to the Northeast. I still have a bunch of family here, but Northeast is very expensive.
yeah.
So I found a place on Craigslist in Delaware,
Okay.
and I just took it. I didn't even
Yeah.
go look at it. I was just like, whatever, I'll take it. And the guy was like, are you sure? And I was like, yep. So I loaded up a truck. I calculated how much the rent was going to be and food and other expenses. And, I had plenty of money to do it. And I was like, all right. So, worst case, I can always just tuck tail and come back to North Carolina, and my day job will still be there. They'll rehire me if it comes to it. And, yeah, I packed up a budget van with my dad, and we drove up there, and that was the first time I saw the place was when we got there that night. And I was like, yeah, this works. But it was small though, dude. It was mad small. It was a lot smaller than I thought it would be, which is why, because there's that transition where I had a place with a game room, and then when
Hmm.
I was in Delaware, like, I was right by a spiral staircase, because you would walk in and that's the living room. The kitchen is a part of the living room. There's a spiral staircase that goes up. There's a bedroom and a bathroom. And that was it. And
Okay.
I was like, it's small, but it does the job. And actually, it was a good thing because Spawn Wave lived nearby. He lived, like, I didn't even plan that.
Okay.
We were friends at the time, and then I was telling him that I was going to move, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I live like 15 minutes from there." And I was like, "Oh, great." So
Yeah.
we got to do a lot of stuff together and do like conventions and stuff together. So that was super cool.
And that was the place in Delaware was the place that you were living at before you just recently moved, right?
No, I
No.
moved back to Connecticut,
Okay.
and I was renting a 2-bedroom condo,
Oh, okay. Yep.
and I was kind of like, after like a year, I was like, all right, I need to buy a place. And then hold on. Yeah, I needed to buy a place just because I needed the room. And
Yeah.
so in October, I finally bought a place, and
Okay.
that's where I'm at now.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And I remember when you were going through the process and like you made the announcement on your channel that you're moving and getting an actual setup and stuff, you mentioned that you did some wheeling and dealing with kind of the arrangement with the houses and just house hunting in general. And for me, I'm 25, and a lot of people that listen are in their 20s and kind of going on to that next chapter of life. Just curious, do you have any advice for anyone that's in the market for looking for a house?
Right now, I would wait. I
Okay.
would wait as long as, and there's that risk that things won't get a little bit more normal, but if you
Hmm.
look over time, they eventually do become normal because eventually things just get to a price where nobody can afford it. So obviously they have to bring it down. But yeah, it was my first time. Like,
Hmm.
it was my first time doing anything like that. And luckily I had a really good real estate agent who was like a younger dude. Like, I think he's like 30 or something. So he was like super cool. And it was just like very like that's another good thing I would say is if you are planning to do something, definitely get a good real estate agent who you kind of gel with. Cause like
Okay.
like he would like hit me up at like 1 in the morning and be like, yo, we got to do something. I'm like, all right, put in the offer. It's cool, we'll do it. But yeah, it was an experience though,
Yeah.
something that I wouldn't want to do again anytime soon, especially because my whole thing was that I could offer a quicker closing than most people could. I
Hmm.
was ready to go. I talked to my landlord and they were like, no, it's cool. You could break the lease, no big deal. Cause it was only like 4 months or something like that. And it was actually supposed to be up in February. And so they were cool with it. And so I was like, well, that's the thing. That's what we're going to sort of hold our hat on, that we could do a quick closing. So the place I got, they acted like they wanted to do a quick closing, but then right now, because so many people are doing stuff with mortgages and stuff, it's so backed up that
Yeah.
we actually had a closing date. I had my mother flying in. I had movers set up. I had cleaners, internet, everything was set up. And they're like, we need another 10 days. And I'm like, you. I was like, yo, I can't. Like, I have all this stuff. And they were
Yeah.
like, I was like, what can we do? And they're like, well, nothing. And I was like, oh, great. I was like, well, I guess they get another 10 days. So I had to reschedule like everything.
Oh man.
Definitely very annoying because I was, you kind of check out of a place and you're kind of like focused on getting into the new
Yeah.
place. Even if you're just, renting something, you get focused on that and you start getting all these ideas, and then to have it delayed, it's a miserable thing. But
Yeah.
beyond that, that was the only hiccup in the whole thing. So I'm definitely grateful for that because
That's good.
I've heard horror stories.
Yeah. I'm glad that it worked out in the end, being pretty okay, minus the minor inconvenience. I also remember around that time was what was it? Was it the Switch OLED that you had,
Yes.
like you got from what, Target or Walmart or something, and then they wouldn't change the shipping address?
Yes, it was Target, I believe. Yes,
Okay.
it was Target, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't let me change that address, and it was so annoying. And the funny thing is, I didn't even think of this, but limited run games.
Yeah.
I've had so many limited run things that I completely forgot that I ordered show up to that old place. And like I'll try to drive by. It's not super far. It's like 15-20 minutes away.
Okay.
And I'll drive by like the day it was supposed to be dropped off to see if it's maybe there. They're never there. And it's like I just got an email a couple days ago about the Doom collection.
Yeah.
And because I never set up, you buy stuff, but they're like, do you want to check out as a guest or do you want to make an account? And
Hmm.
I'm always like, guest. Just let me get through this.
Yeah.
If you do it as a guest, you can't change your address. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
another thing that's going to be just sitting there. I don't know if like somebody is taking them and enjoying them. I hope so, but
Right.
that's annoying. That's
That
really annoying.
is.
And it's because limited run takes so damn long to get the product out to you. It's crazy.
Man, all the logistics with changing addresses and moving.
There's so many things you don't think about
Yeah.
until it comes down to it. But I think like I'm pretty sure that's the last thing I ordered from
Okay.
them. So, whatever.
So speaking of kind of moving and like the logistical pieces that come into it, how how much of a pain is it to have to move your like collection of stuff?
I was smart this time.
Okay.
I hired movers, and what I did, because when I moved from North Carolina to Delaware, there's a video on the channel. I had this brilliant idea. I was like, we're gonna saran wrap everything. We'll
Okay.
saran wrap the shelves with the games on them. It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
And I remember I had some people that I worked with help me load up the truck, and I heard something kind of crack, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that was a bookshelf. I was like, this is gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And so we put all the bookshelves filled with stuff, in there. And when we moved it up, and I remember that night, like we left at like, I remember we got a flat tire on the dolly because I got a car carrier. And so we had a flat tire on that, and we tried to call budget, and they're like, oh, we'll send someone out in 2 to 3 hours. And my dad was like, we can't wait that long. And I was like, nah. I was like, let's just put air in it and hope for the best. Luckily, that's all it really needed. But when we got to Delaware, we were unloading everything, and like, he was like, what did you do with these bookshelves? I was like, don't worry about it. Just grab one end, I'll grab the other. And they just fell apart in our hands, and
Oh
the
man.
games were just all over the ground. And I was like, huh. So when I moved, I honestly, when I lived in Delaware, I didn't really set up everything I
Okay.
had at the time. So I left a lot of it in totes and stuff like that. So when I moved up here, I was just like, we'll just do it all in totes. But then this time when I moved, I of course had all the arcade one-ups. At that
Yeah.
time, I only had one. I only had the Street Fighter one, and then I
Okay.
ended up buying like Final Fight and Mortal Kombat, and then of course all the rest of them. So I was like, yeah, I'm hiring movers for this. Like, there's no way. And luckily, it was great. Like
That's good.
nothing. Literally, the only thing that broke was something that I transported, which was a computer screen.
Okay.
And like, I was setting up my computer, and like I turned it on, it was just like, yeah, and I was like, oh man, that's the one thing that broke is what I brought. But I ended up getting a little curved monitor,
Yeah.
which probably needed anyways. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise. But yeah, it's a pain, like just throwing everything into totes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I just bought a ton of like big Rubbermaid style, of course not Rubbermaid brand because that's more
Yeah.
expensive, the knockoff Rubbermaid stuff. And I just threw everything in there, and I would just like write on the top of what it was. And like right now, I still like this. These are most of my games, but like my big box collectibles and stuff, it's
Mm-hmm.
all still in totes. And I know where it is. It's in
Okay.
the corner of the little arcade room. Um, I'm planning something with that. I've been buying a lot of boxed consoles lately, and there's kind of a reason for that. There's a closet over there that right now I just have like empty cardboard boxes and stuff. I need to clean it out, but I'm actually gonna finish that room, and I actually haven't told anyone about this, so this is an exclusive.
Oh
I'm gonna
man.
I'm gonna finish, like it's partially finished, but it needs some sprucing up. Like it needs
Okay.
a little bit of new flooring, and it has some built-in shelves, but I want to build in more and paint them a different color. But that's where I'm gonna put all my big box stuff and my box systems and stuff, because it's a very, like I say closet, but it's like it's almost like a more of a small room.
Okay.
So you could do a lot of stuff in there. It was either that or a bathroom, because I don't have a bathroom down here in the basement, but there's one right at the top of the stairs. So I'm just like,
Sure.
yeah, you know, worst case, I'll get a pee jug or something, just stick it in the corner.
There you
I
go.
actually told my mom, I was like, yo, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna put a bathroom down there. I think I'm gonna, you know, I'll get like one of those things you put in an RV. And she was like, that's disgusting. And I was like, but it works. It works. That's what we're going for here.
I love it. Um, it doesn't have to be like the most expensive or rarest thing that you have, but is there anything that is the most important to you that you have part of your collection or most
Yes.
meaningful maybe?
And it is actually the most expensive, well, one of the most expensive
Okay.
things. And that is Panzer Dragoon Saga on the Saturn. That was given to me by Milton Chen. Um, and half of the people thought that I faked that video, and half the people wanted to kill me because somebody sent me he sent me Panzer, and he sent me Dragon Force on the Saturn, which were two games that I thought I would never own. Maybe Dragon Force, because Dragon Force at that time was going for like 150 or 200, and but Panzer was already out of the stratosphere, and I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm never gonna own that game, and that's okay. And that dude just randomly sent him to me, and I actually met him at two different conventions, and it was like a huge thing. Like I ran up, I was like, Milton, give him a big hug, and
Yeah.
like, here's a t-shirt, take something from my table here, please. That was bizarre. That was absolutely bizarre. But that definitely, if I had to sell everything, I would, but I would keep that,
Okay.
because that's something that, you know, that's just insane to me.
Yeah, that's awesome though. So one of the things that I've always really appreciated about your content is, I like video games, so it's cool to be up to date with the news and stuff. But I always end up laughing while watching your stuff, like from like the random stories or the intros, whether it's the when you see the hey y'all,
Yeah.
RGT here, Buenos, what is it,
Well,
Buenos
see, people
Dias?
started stealing the hey y'all after I
Yeah,
stole it. I saw other people doing
yeah,
it, and I was like, all right, no, I'm not doing it anymore because now it's getting too out of control. I need to switch it up and do something different. And so I just adopted that, and I don't know, it just works.
it works, but I do miss the hey y'all, just like the voice that you use, little like wave thing. It
Scott's a
just,
cool dude, but he's
yeah,
definitely we're definitely
kind of
very
polar
different.
opposites.
Yes, completely polar
Yeah.
opposites. Like I've had long talks with him, and it's just like, wow, like we are so different. We actually played me, him, and Spawnwave played
Hmm.
Halo like 2 weeks ago, and just for like a couple hours, and we just talked to each other the whole time. It was a good chat. But yeah, he's a super good dude.
Yeah.
That dude, you want to talk about success? Like holy
Hmm.
crap, like crazy. But he had a perfect thing going on because he has that quirky personality, but
Yeah.
with John Tron kind of style humor,
Hmm.
and people were looking for that next JonTron because he
Yeah.
would just kind of left. And I don't know if it was planned or not, but it was genius either way. And yeah, he's done a great job.
Yeah, he definitely has. And when it comes to your video, Sean, when it is like the humor or just like stories that you share or the singing bits that you do, is that like just you? Like if
Yeah,
people met you outside of YouTube, is that like how you are in your everyday life? Or do you
yeah.
kind of put, okay, there's no like persona or anything?
No, that's not a persona
Okay.
whatsoever. Like that's just that's actually me. Just like I'm just a very random person who I don't know. Like I just find humor and stuff like that. Like when I first meet
Yeah.
someone, like that's just how I am. Like,
Okay.
like, hey, look at this scar. You know how I got this? Well, let me tell you, just I don't know. It's just always how
I
I've
love
how
it.
I've been. Yeah. It's kind of I would say it kind of comes a bit from my uncle because he's a lot like that. And
Okay.
I've always definitely looked up to him. He was actually the one that got me into video games
Yeah.
because he had an NES and I would go over to his house and play it. And then he got a Sega Genesis with Sonic the Hedgehog, and he gave me his old NES that
Hmm.
Christmas. So that was the first video game system I had. And then I'd remember going over there and playing like Madden on Genesis till like 2 or 3 in the morning, like me against him. And he would
Yeah.
always give me the stupid, you might not know what it is. There was this controller called the Touchpad Pro, or no, Touchpad 360, and it didn't
Okay.
have a D-pad on it. It just had like a flat surface, and you would put your thumb on it and you would
Oh,
move it
okay.
around like a D-pad. And he would always give me that controller, and I never could figure out why. And then one time he was like, "You always give the second player the worst controller because that way you could beat him easier." And I was like, "Oh, makes sense, makes sense." So that's you come over to my place. Oh, here's a nice third-party controller for you. Kind of works. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, I feel like that's every gamer has heard that at some point. Give the worst controller to the second player.
Exactly. It
I
gives
love
you an
it.
advantage. You're here to
Yeah,
win.
definitely. So knowing that that's who you are, just inside and out, the stories that you tell, are those all like 100% true
Yeah.
stories?
If anything, I'll be honest with you. If anything, I hold them back. Like I change. I I might hold them back a little bit, skip a
Okay,
few details because they're way worse than
really?
some of the things that I put out. Yeah, I've got so many other. I've had a weird life. Some of the situations I put myself in, some of them just life put me in those situations. But
Yeah.
yeah, like some of those stories are definitely scaled back a bit, and
Okay.
then there's a ton that people don't believe me even if I tell them. But
Yeah.
if you ask the people who were involved, they're like, yeah, that happened. So
Jeez, that's so funny. Yeah.
I'm glad that I came up in the era before every cell phone had a camera on it and everyone was taking video, because man, that would have been terrible for me. That would have been terrible for me.
Oh man, that's fair. Yeah. The ones that stick out. I just it was on one of your recent ones on the Live and Extra channel, the Who TF, where you mentioned you're quitting the job as like a pharmacy technician,
Yeah,
like that story, and then the Double
yeah.
Dragon story. Those ones just I laughed so hard hearing
Yeah,
those.
that was that That was 100% legit, man. It was a crazy time. And like that job, there's so many more stories from that job
Yeah.
because the pharmacist and we actually got along great. We just had a bad day that
Yeah.
day. But like I would go over to his house and like because my family didn't live around there at the time. So like for
Okay.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, when
Sure.
they would have big meals at their house, I'd go over there and eat. We got along like 90% of the time, but we were kind of both hotheads.
Mm-hmm.
And like we would kind of hit heads on that. But there was a manager there who I went to high school with, and
Okay.
he didn't like me and I didn't like him
Right.
because he was kind of like a weird dork. And that dude, he literally tried to get me in trouble every single day.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of times I had human resources come to town, have to take me in the back and have these long-winded conversations with me about just things. Because what he would do is he would literally, because he was like the store manager. I'm going to say he was 24.
Okay.
We're about the same age. So between
Sure.
23 and 25, let's say, he would hire these chicks that went to the community college that were like 20 years old to be the front end cashier. The man he couldn't talk to people really. Like he was kind of,
Okay.
you know, not really a dork, but like he was just kind of weird. And so
Okay.
he would hire these chicks and he would literally, like they would show me the messages and stuff. He would literally try to date them. But
Yeah.
then since I could actually talk to people, they would end up liking me. So
Mm-hmm.
he would go off the deep end. He would be like, "You're harassing these girls up front." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
I was like, we hung out after work because she's interested in hanging out. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
no big deal. And I never really picked up on it until after I left. And like all these girls that I had become friends with from that, they
Yeah.
would be like, "Oh, look at these messages he'd send me." And it was just the most bizarre thing. And I was like, dude. And like the worst part was I had a trump card in my back pocket that I
Okay.
never pulled on him. And I still to this day, I never pulled it on him because I could have had him get fired and criminally prosecuted because that man was selling weed out of his house all the damn time. All the time. And because
Jeez.
I would after work, my friend would go and go to his house to buy it, and I'd be in the car with him. And so he'd like come outside and I'd just like, hey, buddy. So he knew I knew, but I wasn't a stooge. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
someone that was gonna potentially screw up someone's life over a little bit of pot. But the amount of things that man did to me, I probably should have.
Jeez. He sounds like he's almost worse than what was it, Brad, the double dragon guy?
Oh, that was
Or what was
God, Wayne.
Wayne? Yeah.
Well, Wayne was just a random guy. Like I didn't work with him. We just
Yeah.
went to buy something, and he was just, oh man.
And-
That whole scene, the whole scene in North Carolina of video games
Yeah.
was very interesting because you could look up a company called Buy Right Video Games, which
Okay.
they had a bunch of scandals going on with the Better Business Bureau. This kid that I went to school with, his uncle ran it. And so I'd be like, you know, I'd be learning about this stuff and I would ask him and be like, hey man, Kyle, what's up with your uncle? And he'd be like, oh, that's just him, man. It's just him. So I would like send mean emails to the company and stuff. I'd be like, I know your nephew, Kyle. I go to school with him. Quick, because it was a seedy company. They would
Yeah.
overcharge you on stuff, they would undercut you on stuff. It was like they tried to be a franchise, but it didn't really work. But they try to operate like a franchise. They try to make a big online presence, you know, in the early or in the late 90s when there wasn't really that online presence to buy video games. And it was just a whole big thing. That place was bizarre.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Geez. I guess one of my other questions about people that you've mentioned, Pecker Dupree, real person?
Dupree?
That's
Yeah.
That's the actual name and everything?
No, that's his nickname.
Okay,
I don't
but
like to use too many government names out
that's
there,
fair.
but yeah, Pecker Dupree is a real person. I haven't talked to him in a long time, probably like a decade, because the last time I talked to him, he actually had come up from Georgia to hang out at my apartment,
Mhm.
and it was just a weird thing. Like there was a whole situation with like a girl,
Okay.
and I was trying to warn him about it and it didn't really work out. But yeah, I actually talked to his mother like a month ago, and he's doing good.
It's good.
He's settled down. He's married with a kid or two now, so he's just doing his own thing. I don't think he has social media, so I was just like, yeah, tell him I said what's up. Hope he's doing good. But yeah, real dude. We
Okay.
definitely got into a lot of crazy stuff, man.
Awesome. So, you kind of mentioned when you first kind of got in the business, you had a 3DS, you had a Wii U, so you kind of got maybe a little pigeonholed into Nintendo. And of course, now like your content on RGT 85 is Nintendo focused. And it seems like if you talk about Sony or Microsoft, people are like, what's going on? This is
Yeah.
crazy. Do you ever wish that you never like had that pigeonhole and you could just be gaming in general?
I mean, not 100% because I'm always gonna do like what I want to do,
Yeah.
but you have to look at it from more of a business perspective. It's like
Okay.
if I put a bunch of time playing this game and it doesn't get the same amount of views or get good enough views to where if I did something else and maybe it was a Nintendo related thing instead of, let's say that game was an Xbox thing, it's like, well, then I just wasted my time. I'm not valuing my time. So I definitely look at it from a business perspective. I know I kind of have a good idea of what the audience is used to seeing and what they like to see and what they like to hear about. But I always try to sprinkle in my own things. And like you never know. Like the whole weird thing about YouTube is nothing is guaranteed. You'll make a video, you'll be like, this video is going to do really good. It doesn't do really good. Or
Mhm.
you'll make a video and be like, yeah, this video won't do that great. And then it'll do great. And then you have the mystery of the algorithm. Because
Yeah.
I was looking at my ad revenue for this month and I'm like, what is this? Why is this in my top videos earning for the month? And it was my Simpsons Arcade 1-Up review. And I was like, that's from like November or something. So
Yeah.
I looked, something happened. It got like brushed up in the algorithm and it got like over 100,000 views in like a week. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, so you're kind of at the mercy of
Hmm.
the random algorithm and you never know. So I've been kind of trying to do more sort of evergreen style videos like the Vita thing. The Vita thing was actually super successful. The
Good.
Vita video, the 360 video, the NES unboxing, stuff like that. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I've been buying up old systems, but it works out perfectly because as you know, I'm a cheap person. So I just promote that whatnot link. And
Yeah.
if people sign up with that whatnot link, they get $10 to spend on the website and buy whatever.
Hmm.
If they spend that money, then the website gives me a referral for $10. So because I have sort of a larger following, I just promote that out and then people will sign up. And when they buy stuff, I end up getting a bunch of free credit. Like if you look right there, I have
Yeah.
a Sega Saturn and a Game Boy Pocket. Those are my next two videos that I bought with like 90% credit on the
Wow.
store. So it's like, this is great. I just keep you keep recycling the link and people sign up and you get money to spend on stuff. So it works out good for me and it makes for interesting videos that are more,
Yeah.
have a little bit more a timeless aspect to it. Because that's something I'm not very good at because I'm kind of a instant results person. I like to see
Okay.
instant results. And if I have to wait a while, I don't know. I wouldn't say nervous is the word because like I'm fine, but I don't know. It's just more of a self thing. Like, oh, is my channel dying? Like, what's the problem? What's going on here? But
Yeah.
it always ends up being fine.
Right. Are you ever worried about like YouTube just crashing and not being a thing, or are you ever worried about like your channel just dropping off out of nowhere or anything?
I mean, there's always the possibility that that could happen, which is why I save money like I hoard it. Like the only stuff I don't, people spend like 5 grand on a vacation or something. You're out of your mind. I'm not spending nothing on a vacation. I'll go to my grandma's house and sleep on her couch for a night and that'll be my vacation. Like I don't have aspirations of stuff like that. Fancy clothes and stuff. I wear white t-shirts. People think I wear the same
Your
white
drawer
t-shirt.
of white t-shirts.
My drawer of white t-shirts. Like I just wear my white t-shirts and then if it's cold, I'll wear one of my hoodies and like that's it. Like
Yeah.
I don't like the finer things in life. Like I like a nice watch, a nice car, something like that. But even with those things, like you buy the nice car, but you don't buy the new one. You buy the
Mhm.
used one from like 5 years ago. You pay a fraction of the price, and you can just buy it for cash. And then they don't know the difference. So like, oh, that's a 2015. Oh, that's a 20. I bought a car, and when I moved up here, I put it on Instagram And that was the stupidest mistake I made, because I bought a used Mercedes. I've been buying used Mercedes since I was like 23. And people just have this thing where it's like, oh, Mercedes. Well,
Yeah.
I can't afford that. I literally had people that were like physician's assistants and doctors, and people that were like, I can't afford that. What's YouTube paying you to make this? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I paid $8,500 for this car. Okay. I bought it cash. I'm sorry that you don't understand the used car market, but
Yeah.
it's not that expensive. And I'm someone
No.
who, I don't have a lot of, I'll go visit family, I'll go visit friends, I'll go visit my girl, I'll go, the gas station and stuff like that. But my radius of driving is kind of short. Like a convention, I'll hop on a train. That's the reason I
Okay.
wanted to move up here, just because you can hop on the train. It's $20 each way. It's a nice ride, and you're
Yeah.
saving a ton of money. You bring your big black duffel bag with you, and you just fill it up with crap, and then you sell it there, and you're making money. So yeah, I'm it's always there. And that's kind of why I want to make a video a day almost, is because
Yeah.
I know that the train could derail at any time. You might lose relevancy. YouTube itself might just collapse. And like, if that were to happen today, I would be okay. I would be okay with that,
Yeah.
because I have, my finances in order. I have everything sort of figured out, and then, just make the next move. But I always feel like there's always going to be, because a lot of people just feel like YouTube is just a very one-dimensional thing, and that you don't have any skills from being on YouTube. But I guarantee you, if I decided to quit YouTube right now, and I filled out a resume, and I put, SEO expertise, YouTube expertise, analytical expertise, marketing expertise, and just put my channel in there with some of my high viewed videos and stuff like that, graphics design, like, yeah, my thumbnails are pretty damn boring. It's pretty much the same thing over and over again, just with a different stupid face that I'm making. But there's people that can't do that. So it's more about creating something that you can also expand into things. If
Mhm.
I get too old to talk about video games, well, I still know about SEO stuff. I still know about marketing stuff. Then you could just parlay into like a marketing job or something. And yeah, you might not make what you were making on YouTube, but who cares? It's still money coming in. So that's all that
Right.
really matters. You gotta be smart with your money though, because I definitely know people personally that have had a lot of success, and they blew all that money, and then come tax time, they're on their live streams begging for money. Seen it firsthand, and I'm
Jeez.
like, yo, and it's usually the younger people, usually
Mhm.
the people in their early 20s. But it kind of comes up, it kind of has to do with your upbringing too,
Yeah.
because like I just never, I can't say never, because there was a time where I was definitely, but even then, there was a time when I was very fashionista, which like, and it was like early 2000s rapper fashionista,
Okay.
like the double XL polos,
Yeah.
and like, just some nice chaps jeans, a fresh pair of Tims or Air Force Ones. You had to have a lot of hats too. But
Mhm.
even in that stage, we would drive out to Marshall's, and we would just, me and my buddy Elijah we would go out to Marshall's, and we would just spend like all this money on clothes, but we got so many clothes
Yeah.
because Marshall's was like 40 minutes away. So nobody in town was wearing the stuffs that we were wearing, because they were shopping at like Belk in town and stuff
Yeah.
like that, or Dillard's or whatever the hell it was. So
Yeah.
we always had a little advantage of that. We would have like, I remember I bought like a bunch of Machiavelli Tupac shirts that were just like, I mean, you could wear them as like a blanket, but I was gonna wear them, and I was gonna wear
Yeah.
them with a smile.
I love that. That's awesome. The skills that you mentioned that you've gained through your time on YouTube, have those been things that you've just had to teach yourself throughout this whole
Yes,
process? Okay.
100%, 100%. Because I just, I'm a big proponent, I should say, of just finding something that works, and if
Mhm.
it works, figure out why it worked.
Okay.
Why did this? And you're never gonna figure out 100% of why something works out and why something doesn't work out 100% of the time, but you can get sort of a general idea. And that's something that I think people don't really look at enough. It could be something as simple as just, if a video completely bombs and you feel that this video should have done better, changing up the title, changing up the thumbnail. I have done that with a bunch of videos, and I've seen them just end up catching on, and then, you know, it ends up getting a decent amount of views, and you make good money on it. And it's just little simple things. But yeah, I mean, there's like courses and stuff, and I had a lot of people wanting me to sort of teach them how to sort of, you know, kickstart your channel. But I don't think there's a one size fits all sort of
Sure.
thing with that, because you have so many different niches. You have so many, because I mean, video games, while they are huge, it's still a niche thing, you know, as
Yeah.
far as, you know, content creation is concerned, because you actually have to be a dedicated video game. People can like video games, but all because you like video games doesn't mean that you're going to watch video game content on YouTube. There's different
Sure.
levels. You know, most of the content I watch on YouTube is like dog videos, like a dog doing something stupid.
Okay.
And lately I've been watching DAP, which is Dads Against Predators, and it's basically just like these dudes who like act like little kids online, and then they go and meet the people at like a mall or like at a Walmart or something, and then
Okay.
just like follow them around. They're like, this person came here to meet a 13-year-old girl, and it's just so interesting to see the reactions. And it's
Yeah.
like, I almost want to have a kid so that I could be in Dads Against Predators, so I could do something like this, because it just looks like so much fun. And yeah, probably someone's gonna get shot one day, but hopefully that person isn't me, because most of these people, you know, they're kind of weirdos anyways. It's just fascinating. But even me, like, I don't watch a lot of video game content because
Okay.
I feel like you could be subtly influenced
Yeah.
by stuff. Like, I remember there was a whole big thing that happened probably like 3 years ago with this N64 channel called Glenn Plant, who I had been watching a lot. And I made a video talking about adult N64 games, and, you know, just looking at all of the different mature games on the N64, saying that the N64 was like the most mature in terms of quantity of titles that released with
Sure.
a mature rating versus overall titles.
Sure.
And within minutes, people were like, why'd you copy Glenn? I'm like, what? I
Hmm.
didn't copy Glenn. And I looked, and 3 days previously, he had made a video on the exact same thing. And I felt like just a piece of trash, because it 100% looked like I copied him. And I was someone who watched his channel. So it was like,
Yeah.
well, why did this happen? And my guess is that I was, because that video didn't even do like gangbusters or anything like that. My guess was I was just probably laying in bed. I was probably just scrolling through my sub feed, and I probably saw it, and I didn't think anything of it. I didn't watch it, because
Yeah.
when I ended up watching the video, there were some similarities, but there definitely were some differences too. But
Sure.
like, I feel like if you watch too much of it, it sort of influences what you're going to do,
Yeah.
whether you realize it or not, whether it's a subconscious thing or not. Like, eventually it's going to play a role. So I try to the video game content I do watch is stuff that I wouldn't ever do or try to do.
Okay.
So that's how I sort of stay away from that.
So like Spawnway is a good example, right? Like you're never going to take apart some console on your channel or
Oh
anything like that.
God, no.
Yeah.
I can't,
Okay.
dude. I have no idea how to do anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't. What did I do the other day that I was proud of? It was something like so simple. I don't even remember what it was, but I had to use a screwdriver and stuff, and I was like, "Yes, go me." What did I do? I don't remember now.
Did it have to do with like the N64 games or whatever you got off Amazon or something? Because didn't you?
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was
Take that.
it. That was it. Because I had to get the little Torx thing with it so that I could open it up, and I was like, "Yeah, go me." I did it.
I love it. Is there anyone in like the video game YouTube space that you'd want to work with or collaborate with in the future?
Yeah, Scott the Waz, because
Okay.
and then on his channel,
Okay.
because then people will come over to me from his channel that don't know I exist. And
Yeah.
like, but no, seriously, like, I feel like I could pretty much work with whoever I want to work with, you know,
Okay.
as far as people that I like. I mean, obviously there's, you know, like Fortnite and Minecraft streamers who are like, you know, out of the realm of possibility. But I mean, what would I talk about with them? It really at this point would be more of a monetary sort of thing, like how,
Sure.
like, and that's just keeping it real. Like,
Yeah.
how can I make this benefit me? How can I make this get more people to my channel? But then you also run the risk of um a bunch of people sub into your channel and not watching your shit, and then YouTube will see that, and then it'll kind of push you down further in the algorithm, because
Okay.
that that's the second most dangerous thing about YouTube. The most dangerous thing about YouTube is getting a viral video and none of your other stuff before it has ever done anything really good,
Okay.
because 95% of the channels that get like a really viral video, it doesn't work out because it just
Okay.
spikes, and
Yeah.
then they get on this high, and then it just constantly goes down, and
Mm-hmm.
then they never get that same sort of thing, and then next thing you know, they're back at square one, because once again, the almighty algorithm is like, well, why would this video get all these views but nobody's watching their new stuff? Let's push them down the algorithm. So that's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And Sean, switching gears a little bit, basketball. I'm a big sports guy. I love basketball. Has that always been something you've just really been passionate about?
Yes.
Okay.
Once again, just ever since I was a little kid, because I grew up in the Northeast,
Mm-hmm.
watching the Knicks against the Bulls, the Celtics, the Pacers, Detroit. So it was definitely something that I always enjoyed. I like the sport because it's definitely the fastest
Yeah.
sport. There's not a lot of downtime. When I watch football or baseball, like, football is all right. Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, oh, it's too slow.
Sure.
Get on with it. And hockey's fast, but hockey is something you have to watch in person. I feel just on TV,
Yeah,
it doesn't translate as well.
that makes sense. So is it by far the Knicks are your favorite team, or are the Hornets kind of close, or?
The Hornets ended up becoming my team because I moved to North Carolina, and they
Mm-hmm.
came back as the Charlotte Bobcats.
Yeah.
And I lived like an hour and a half away. So we would always go to the games and stuff. I remember we went to a preseason game, me and my buddy Rob, and we got right behind the goal seats because it was a preseason game and they were only $100 a piece. And I was like, dude, we gotta do this. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So like we just acted like we were like really rich, like really obnoxious at the whole
Yeah.
game. But it was definitely fun. But it was cool because like you could talk to the players at the free
Mm-hmm.
throw line and stuff because they're literally right there.
Yeah.
But when I moved away, I still follow, even when I lived in North Carolina, I would still follow the Knicks. But once I came back up here, it was kind of just like Knicks fever again. And it was not a
Mm-hmm.
bandwagon thing, because when I moved back here, they were still terrible. This was
Yeah.
before the decent run
Mm-hmm.
last year. They were still just atrocious. And I was like, because I would come up here and I would watch Nets games and Knicks games, and I actually really liked the Nets at the time when it was like D'Angelo Russell, Jared Allen, Dinwiddie. Like, I thought that was a
Mm-hmm.
very fun team because
Yeah, I agree.
there wasn't a big superstar caliber player
Yeah.
that was taking over it. And then of course they blew all that up to get the superstar players, and I was just like, no, I can't mess with that. Like, I prefer the Knicks. And yeah, it's a shame that they suck again this year, but
Yeah. So let's say, Shawn Long becomes the coach and the GM of the Knicks. What are you doing?
I'm bringing in Zion.
You're bringing in Zion? Okay.
Yep, because all the people that are saying that, look, has his foot messed up right now? Yes. How serious is it? Not as serious as they're letting on. There's a reason things like this happen. Don't you remember before Harding got traded to the Sixers, he was having abdominal issues, or no, it was hip issues, and that's why he was out for that game,
Mm-hmm.
because of hip issues. No, they do things like that when they want to shut down a player. They do things like that when there's no reason to bring a player back. And if a player's not happy, they're going to lean into those injuries. It's just like Blake Griffin. Blake
Yeah.
Griffin, the last 2 years in Detroit, he never dunked the ball. The first night with the Nets, he dunked the ball, and everyone thought he couldn't dunk it anymore. There's a lot more psychological games that are played with that, and I feel like Zion is something like that. Yeah, RJ Barrett, and you have Cam Reddish,
Mm-hmm.
who both played with Zion at Duke.
Yep.
Try it. What you're trying isn't working. You tried to do something this offseason. I commend it, but it's not working. That's fine. A lot of those contracts are, after this year, are a little bit more team friendly because a lot of them are expiring contracts.
Right.
Try it. New Orleans doesn't care. New Orleans understands that they probably won't have prominence anytime soon. So
Mm-hmm.
why not try it? You got a ton of pieces you can move there, and start the kids, man. You got to play the kids more. There's no reason that Taj Gibson at 36 years old is playing 30 minutes. There's no
Yeah.
reason that Alec Burks, who is a player that should be coming off the bench, is playing for 30 minutes at point guard. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't work. He's not a
No.
point guard. You can't force people. You have these kids who have shown flashes of brilliance, but it's like you have this
Mm-hmm.
win now mentality, but your win now mentality isn't working with your older players. So
Right.
you got to spruce it up, man. And that's not, I mean, it's the game. it's the game. Kimball Walker, his season's over now. He decided to shut it down.
Yeah.
It's the game. Is Kimba going to be here next season? Probably not. Do I still have a Kimball Walker next jersey? Yes, I do, because I love that man. Because I watched him at UConn. I watched him when he was drafted to the Hornets. I remember when he was drafted to the Hornets. I used to go see him all the time. And I love that man's the way he plays, but it didn't work out. And that's okay. But you can't, if something doesn't work out and you realize it's not working out, you can't stick with it. You got to move on from it.
I'm with you on that. I definitely, I'm a Duke fan, so I really like Zion and RJ and Cam, and I think them playing together would be fantastic. So other than the three of those, is there anyone else that you'd say is like untouchable on the Knicks if you had all the power?
Like,
are you like an Obi Toppin fan?
Oh my God, I love Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin. He's the high. Tibbs hates him for some reason.
I know,
and it drives me nuts because even if he does a boneheaded play, it's like, who cares? He's still trying 150%. In my opinion, I wouldn't say they're completely untouchable, but if I'm making the move for Zion, the pieces I want to keep are people like Quentin Grimes, Deuce McBride, Jericho Sims, Obi Toppin. Quickly, I'm 50-50 on Quickly. Some nights I love him and I think he could definitely be a player. Some nights I'm going, I don't know. He kind of gets in his head sometimes. But I think I think all the rookies that you just got, Deuce McBride, Quentin Grimes, and Jericho Sims, if you don't see the talent in those people, you are an idiot. Quentin Grimes obviously is established now, more so than the other players. He's an absolute threat. Deuce McBride is one of the best defenders that doesn't play in the NBA. He goes down, they send him to the G League, and he gets like 40 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, and then they call him back up just to sit on the bench. And then Jericho Sims, he's kind of a raw project, but he just has size and athletic ability, which is what you want from a center. Like, not everyone needs to be a stretched center. There's a place for people like Jared Allen, obviously, because he's very successful. And I mean, Jericho Sims, even he's got the same Jared Allen fro. It's like, play the man. He's a monster. So I would definitely keep a lot of the young pieces because there's a lot of stuff you could build around with that. And I would just, Fournier, teams will want Fournier. Knicks fans hate him most of the time because he doesn't play defense, but his offense, he's always scoring your 20 points a game. He's always getting it. He's a very skilled shooter. People will want him. Randall, it's tough because if you look at statistically, he's been putting up numbers once again. Like, I think the last 10 games is like 28 points, 8 boards, 7 assists or something like that. He's putting up numbers, but I almost feel like they ask him to do too much and he gets in his head and then he gets on these slumps. So, he got a big contract over the summer. That's obviously going to be very hard to move, but there was the potential to move it before the trade deadline. If Indiana didn't offer Sabonis to the Kings, it would have been Randall.
Yeah, that's fair.
And, and you would have gotten Halliburton, you would have gotten your point guard. And it's like, why didn't we do this? But hey, what do I know?
Yeah, I love basketball and just sports in general, and I'm a Pistons fan, so
the struggle is real.
I felt a little hurt when you mentioned the Blake Griffin not dunking in Detroit. I was like, yeah, I definitely was one of those fans that was hurt by that. It is true. It's very true, and it was so disappointing to see. But yeah, the struggle is real.
A lot of young pieces. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know about Cade Cunningham, man. I don't know about him. Maybe they're just asking him to do too much. I don't see a superstar in him. I see a role player for him, and
really
that's not a knock against him, but just watching him, he just looks a little bit lost. At least in the games that I've seen. I haven't seen obviously every game, but watching him against the Knicks, watching him against the Nets, because those are the two main markets in here. So I see all those games. He definitely has that sort of I'm a bit lost mentality, and that's not trying to knock against him, but I'm not sure he's going to be that superstar that the Pistons want.
Okay.
Or more or less, I guess should say need, because they really need a superstar at this point in order to bring, because it's been several years of just, bottom of the barrel stuff. Hey, at least you had the championship run with Hamilton and Sheed and That was a great team. I love that team. But you were probably like 10 or 12 during that.
That was the best time though. I was playing basketball.
That's true.
I
That's
had
true.
all the
You appreciate
cards
it
and
more.
would try to go all the games with my buddies and stuff. And yeah, Chauncey, Tayshawn, Rip, Sheed, Big Ben.
Yeah, my parents were living right outside of Detroit. I can't think of the
Okay.
name of the town that they lived in, but they would always go to the Pistons game and
Yeah.
stuff. And I like Sheed because he went to UConn. I mean not UConn, UNC. I liked
See,
Rip because he went to UConn.
UConn.
And it was like, this is a fun team. You know, there's not
Yeah.
that dominant superstar. And Sheed, I love players that are always talking. I love
Yeah.
players that are always talking and getting physical and getting in scraps. You don't see it as much anymore. Really, the only two players that stick out in my mind that aren't like bums, like the Morris brothers, Markieff and Maurice. I hate them. They are the worst type of NBA player because they're just man, they're just horrible to watch because they're bums. They get scared when it comes fist comes to shove. But I love Montrezl Harrell. I was
Yeah.
very pissed that the Knicks didn't try to get him. He ended up going to Charlotte though, so good for him. So I could still root for him. And Joel Embiid. Joel
Yeah.
Embiid is a superstar who just does not care. He
No.
does not care. He does not want to be friends with you. And that's my whole thing. Like in life, you can't be friends with everyone. So why try to force it and be like, oh, we're all friends? Like watching basketball in the 90s. Like I just subscribed to
Yeah.
this YouTube channel. I can't think of the name of it. Maybe it's Ball is Life or something. No, Ball is Life's a big channel. This is kind of a channel on the come up, but they basically just take individual games and they'll show you all the heated moments from them.
Hmm.
And in an individual game, you have more pushing and shoving and you
Yeah.
know crazy stuff going on than you do in the whole season anymore. And it's like it's weird to me. I understand the whole Malice at the Palace thing. Like, I understand that's why
Yeah.
they had to change some stuff. But at the end of the day, like, dudes are gonna get mad at stuff. You
Yeah.
know, when they're pushing and shoving, people are gonna get mad. There's
Mhm.
words. It's not they're gonna kill each other on the court or anything. I guess you have the whole
Right.
fan perspective of things, and you don't want people running out in the court. I get that, but still, like, I don't know. You gotta let people let out their aggressions, and most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't lead to anything more than just that individual instance. And the one time out of 10 when it does lead to more, it makes for a more interesting watching experience because now it's like, oh, well, they're coming to town, you know, and
Yeah.
so and so doesn't like so and so. This is gonna be a good thing. Like, I think that's the one thing hockey gets right is that they haven't just completely outlawed fighting because people get mad. You know, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong. The whole thing of society is like we want people to stop killing people and stuff like that. You're not going to kill someone playing basketball, just throwing some punches or something like that. Let out that anger. And then, you know, I mean, this is how it is, man. Like, I completely understand. Me and my stepdad played basketball and he was like 240 pounds and I was like 160 pounds. And
Okay.
he'd start backing me down. He'd backing me down. He'd like, stop backing me down. You're bigger than me. This is a foul. And this was like when I was like 16 or 17.
Okay.
And like, he wouldn't because he wanted to win and I wanted to win. So
Yeah.
I'm like punching him in the kidneys and stuff. Like, get off me. And we're just like out there screaming at each other. The neighbors
Yeah.
are looking outside. I remember one time I just grabbed the goal and I ripped it down and I threw it down. I was like, fuck this, I'm leaving. And I got in my car and left. And my mom called me and she was like, what is going on? I was like, he kept backing me down. He kept backing me down. Like, you get mad when people are pushing against you. It's crazy to me. It's crazy how they just try to make everything so like a Disney movie, and it's like it's not real. And especially a lot of the upbringing of these basketball players, you know, most of these players are inner city people who've had to do things like that their whole life, and then just to be like, hey, you can't do that anymore. It's like, what? Like that's how I grew up. And obviously you're supposed to mature as you get older, and you know, people are like, oh, these people are making millions of dollars. Why are they still acting like this? And it's like, because it's human nature.
Right.
It's human nature to get angry at someone who's constantly pushing your buttons, who's constantly, you know, knocking into you, and the refs aren't going to call every foul. So I don't know. What was that kid's name? Jamari from the Pistons when he went at LeBron. What's his name?
Oh, Isaiah Stewart.
Grant? Oh no, Isaiah Stewart. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Beef stew.
Yeah, dude, I gave him props on Twitter. I was like, yo, that was great. Because that was, I mean, he got hit in the face. Nobody did anything about it. He's got blood dripping down his face because LeBron was a dirty player. I'm not a big LeBron fan, by the way. So I loved to see that. That was one of the highlights.
Okay.
And what happened? Did they kill each other? Did they get over something? No.
No.
They handled it on the court. They got thrown out, and then business as usual.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny because it was before my time, but even growing up, I watched so many games from like the bad boys, like Bill
Mhm.
Embiid, Dumars, Isaiah. Just those were like I love those times. Like I watched, I can't remember the name right now, but that Jordan documentary
Mhm.
like a year ago, and I was just a big fan of the Bulls team by Jordan and your Knicks with Ewing and stuff. Just
Oakley, like
Oakley,
it
yeah,
was a war every night,
yeah,
but it never escalated beyond
past
that.
that, yeah,
Yeah, it was just on the court, even at all-star games and stuff. Like, that was during the time when I don't know why we went away from this, but when you were an Eastern Conference player, you played on the East team, and
yeah,
then the West was in the West. So you'd have people that were in that same locker room that got into fist fights, and it was, it's cool. It's the heat of the moment. It happens. It's not a personal thing, but
right,
Adam Silver wants to baby everything, so it is what it is.
yeah. Do you have a do you have any thoughts on like best player in the NBA right now?
um, it's definitely not Trey Young.
No.
Um, best play. I mean, if I'm picking a team,
Yeah.
the first person I'm picking is Kevin Durant
Okay.
because he's a long enough defender. He's a decent enough defender, and his offensive game is clutch. And
Yeah.
he's pretty much always on. There's Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good, but I'm not a huge Steph Curry fan because we went to it was either a Bobcats game or a Hornets game. I don't think they transitioned yet. It was a Bobcats versus Golden State game, and it was
Okay.
Kimba versus uh, Curry. Curry went to Davidson College, which is
Yep.
kind of near Charlotte,
Yep.
and so the whole row in front of me were just cheering for Curry the whole night. And I it's just boiling and boiling and boiling. I remember I was there with my dad and my buddy Rob, and it's just boiling over. And my
Yeah.
dad's like, just calm down. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I just stood up and I got like right behind him. I was like, who the F are you here to see? Are you here to see a Hornets game? Is this the Warriors arena? No, we're here to see a Bobcats game. So shut the F up with all this Curry stuff and cheer for your Bobcats. And like, they just looked at me like terrified. And I was just so mad because it's like, I don't get it. Like, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. And so I always left a sour taste in my mouth, but the Bobcats did win that game. So I was
That's all that matters.
that's all that matters.
It was because you're
Yeah,
cheering.
right. But yeah, I like Curry, but I'd say overall KD.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think KD's probably the best scorer right now. I mean, I'd say Curry's
Right.
the best shooter, but in
Mhm.
terms of just pure scoring, KD.
Who do you want over Giannis or Embiid though?
Oh, I actually saw, I think SportsCenter tweeted it last night or something. It was like Giannis, Embiid, and Jokic, like the start one, bench one, cut one.
Mhm.
I think I would take Giannis over Embiid.
Are you taking Embiid over Jokic?
Yes,
Ooh.
which I feel like is controversial, and I don't know why, but I really respect Jokic, but I've just never. I just feel like his game isn't like sexy, quote unquote. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just he's a very good, talented player, but like he doesn't do anything flashy. He's not over the top. He's no LaMelo Ball where I can
Right.
just like jump out of my seat every time I watch him play. So like I watch him put up good numbers, but I just sit there. I'm like, just great player, just nothing that really catches my attention.
See, I also like Jokic because he has that sort of gangster mentality to him.
He
And then
clocked, dude. He clocked that like earlier this season.
Morris, dude, yeah,
Yeah,
he
it was
hasn't played since. And it's like, why would you mess with this big Russian dude
it's true.
who's like, his brothers are crazy? Have you ever looked into his brothers? They are
No.
the Jokic brothers, dude. They are nuts. They were telling the Morris brothers to like pull up, like after the game and stuff. Like, man, some crazy Russian dudes. I ain't messing with them. Look at all
No.
the stuff that ended up happening now. But yeah, like I like
Jeez.
Jokic. He's not. I think I'm not sure just how good he is because of that Denver team.
Yeah.
I would like to see him on a different team. I would like to see him in a different market to
Okay.
see how his game translates to another team. But I do like his game. He's fun because He's got that edge to him.
Yeah. So who would you take over Giannis and Embiid? Embiid?
Man, I think I would take Embiid.
Yeah.
Because Giannis, the thing about Giannis is he tries to shoot too many threes.
That's true.
And it's like, why are you doing this? Like Shaq in his prime was not doing that. Like
No.
he was destroying you in the paint and, you know, hurting you and making you cry and wonder about your life. And like Giannis has that body type to him, except against a player like possibly Embiid or Jokic. But against most of the league, like he's way more athletic. And it's like, I don't understand why they're not just running alley-oops and, you know, ISOs for him, because he's going to beat if you start him at the top of the perimeter and you run an ISO for him, he's beating whoever's coming, who's ever defending him off the dribble.
Yeah.
This is an easy dunk or a layup. He has that long wingspan too. So I don't know. His game I like his game, but there's definitely moments where I'm puzzled by it. I'm like, why did he do that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think that it's one of those things where it depends who else is on your team, right? Like, I mean, if you have Steph Curry, I'd probably take Giannis in a heartbeat because you have that facilitator, you have that scorer. But if you need someone that can step out and hit threes or whatever, then I mean, Embiid's a better shooter for sure.
Right. So yeah, it's definitely who you got around you.
Yeah,
I think
definitely. Awesome. Well, it's been a great conversation, man. I really appreciate it.
Good time.
Yeah, I thank you so much for coming on, and to anyone listening, if you enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about Shawn Long, also known as RGT85, go find him on YouTube, RGT85, RTG85 Live and Extras is your second channel where you go live sometimes, do random videos, random cool things that you're interested about. Do you know your social media links off the top of your head?
It's all RGT85, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, that's everything.
Okay, perfect.
TikTok, I got TikTok that I don't use.
I'll put it all in the description of the episode too. So go down there, click there, give RGT some love. And what the next YouTube goal is, what, 500,000?
Yeah, I guess so. I think we're 80,000 away. So
yeah, congrats on 420, by the way.
Yeah, it was a little throwback to my old days when I was a pothead. So it's nice to see. Which people still think I'm a pothead now. I'm just like, no, this is just me. On it though.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Shawn, is there any last words or thoughts or message that you want to give to anyone that's listening today?
Just thank you for listening and thank you for having me on. You're an excellent host, by the way. You definitely kept things moving along, and I appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Shawn, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother.